Hello and welcome to our table talk. We love to talk about adaptive cards. We will introduce everyone in a second, but please, if you do have any questions, unmute yourself if this is possible. If this is not possible, raise your hand with this little nice raise your hand feature in Teams or ask a question in the chat, just like make yourself noticeable so that we can address your questions as well. Yeah, so Thomas was just like showing how this works. Thank you for leading by example. This is a very, very good thing. And now, Tim, your turn. Next slide, please. I always wanted to say this. So, hi, this is me. I'm Luise. I'm from Germany. I'm a Microsoft 365 consultant, MVP for Office Apps and Services, and I'm a member of the M365 PnP team, where we help developers to extend M365. And of course, adaptive cards are part of that. You can find me literally 24/7 on Twitter. You can also connect on LinkedIn, but I treat this like the unbeloved stepchild. So do reach out on Twitter if you'd like to get in touch. Thank you.
Wow. Oh gosh, now it's my turn. So hello everyone, my name is Tomasz Poszetek. I'm Business Applications MVP from Warsaw in Poland. I'm focusing mostly on workflows and processes and business processes as well. And adaptive cards is kind of this technology that I'm as well intensively investigating and using wherever I can and however I can. But I'm a citizen developer, not a developer, so my options are limited. Nevertheless, if you'd like to connect with me, then I'm as well available at Twitter and LinkedIn. But I highly recommend you to follow me, or maybe to subscribe, this is how it's called, on YouTube, where I'm sharing the most of my knowledge and information recently. So anyways, that's my Twitter handle, yeah. Or you can navigate to aka.ms/ my last name, so Poszetek, and there you can find all the hyperlinks to my other social media channels. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, my name is Tim Kahnbach. I'm from Germany, from the rural area. I'm a Microsoft MVP for developer technology, so I'm the developer in the group here. I'm the founder of MadeWithCards.io, if you know that page just about adaptive cards. I'm one of the early adopters of the whole technology, working with Matt quite often on various things. You can also find me on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn, probably also on the German thing, but easiest way is Twitter by far, because all the other portals are just, yeah, I'm listed there, but that's about it.
So, and then we have a very, very special guest. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes.
Sure, I could say a quick thing. So I am from Seattle in the States, and it's 4 a.m. here. So I just wanted to be with you all to listen in. I work on at Microsoft on the adaptive cards product. Have been met all of you fine folks over the last little while. So I wanted to just sort of listen in, help out where I can, and show some support. I won't be contributing though. They did all the work, so I do not get any credit for anything you get to see.
Okay, so as we said, we want to do that a little bit conversational. We have a few questions for the audience, and based on that, we want to like control a bit of our content to make sure it actually matches what you guys are looking for. So the first question would be if you guys know adaptive cards already. So all the people who are here in the call, if you can maybe just make a plus or minus in chat. I don't know how we can easily do that, but would be great to know if all of you are just new here, new to adaptive cards, or if everyone knows everything already and just wants to listen in.
We get a dot.
I see a little square. Now it's a plus, and even more pluses. So that is cool. So we already have some adapters, just like people who are using adaptive cards, or at least know what they are. So, and of course, maybe you build your own adaptive card, or you just like used an adaptive card that was displayed to you in some context. Would be nice to know as well if you're proactively building or if you're consuming. So at least this is interesting for me, of course.
Right. That's a good thing. I think we can share a survey. No, we can't.
No. Well, we can just, Louise, if you do you want to go ahead with just getting the basics done?
Yeah, I would get the basics done for everyone who is not in the know yet. And I know we have a slide for that.
We do, yeah.
Would you like to share this particular slide?
You mean this one?
Yeah, I mean that one with the beautiful unicorn emoji on it, just because. So this is what I use to explain adaptive cards. Why is that a unicorn worth thing to have? So adaptive cards are just like UI snippets. And if you think, yeah, UI, but I'm not a designer and probably I'm not good at designing, I'm more into writing and defining what something is, more declarative, but I'm not a good designer, then so good news for you, because they will be authored, or they are authored in JSON, which means you define the structure, but you do not need to take care of the design, because now something comes in that is just like mind-blowing, and it's the adaptive thing about the adaptive cards, because those adaptive cards will adapt to the host environment. That means if I have an adaptive card that will be displayed in Teams, it looks and feels like it belongs in Teams. If I deliver that to Outlook, it will look and feel like Outlook, like it belongs there. If I do the same thing in Viva Connections, it will look and feel like Viva Connections, so that it just like automatically adapts. And this is super cool, because then I don't need to care how my card will look like. I just define the structure, and I can even push that on several platforms and will automatically adapt. And this means that I can let my users interact with content, just like clicking on something or filling out a form. They are even extensible, so that is a great thing as well. And by delivering those very interactive cards to users, the great advantage is that they can stay in the flow of their work. So I do not need to open something and then go to a different website and then log in again, because there's no SSO or something like that. But I can just like stay where I am, accomplish some my work without just like having too much context switching.
Yeah, I'm trying out. Are mostly interacting with cards, whether they're creating them out or just consuming, as you asked in the beginning. But there are no questions, no answers yet, right? Maybe like mostly interact with the cards, so that we know maybe what is your profile as well. I think we can move on with our conversation. There are no questions, and let's see how the answers are coming in.
Yeah, would be very, very nice, and I can already see in this about this in a couple of minutes. So there are, of course, several ways how you can author your card. So if you're totally new to this and you feel like, yeah, so well, what will I need to do to author my card? So there's just is first the Adaptive Cards Designer, and you can find this at Adaptive Cards, which is a beautiful, are just like more into dragging and dropping controls onto a canvas, so that style experience can do this, and this will auto generate this JSON code for you that you then later on need. People who are just like more familiar and more used to writing the JSON itself can do this as well, and this do half of the job in the designer and the other half in and just like combine that. It's totally up to you. The experience also has, of course, a lot of samples, so community is always great great source for that, and we have a lot of samples in there. So yeah, this is great. So these are some samples from the PNP repository. They are all on GitHub. Your own. The other way to author your card is in Visual Studio Code. So if you are more on the developer side of the house, there is a great extension, and the creator of this extension, few words about your extension, because I think there's no better person to talk about this than you.
Yes.
I have a screenshot.
Yeah, we have that one screenshot here. So the adaptive cards extension for Visual Studio Code actually allows you to work on the JSON layout of the card. So it's more developer, it's more related to developers. But if you're working with JSON, you can work on your JSON layout in Visual Studio Code and directly see what's going on, because you always have the up-to-date render of the card. To Teams as well, so you can actually stay inside Visual Studio Code, work on your bot maybe, or whatever you're working on whatever project, and you can edit the card straight away and test it and see what's going on without leaving Visual Studio Code. So if you're a developer working on a bot or a Teams app using adaptive cards, this is actually really handy and helpful for you. I use it myself, so yeah.
Because yet again, it makes sure that you stay. So yeah. I would never have 42 tabs open just any tool.
Well, you don't want to see.
Of course, you do share this. But yeah, so I know we all just like context switch. Where I am, and just like focusing and have an extension that brings some certain capability into the tool that I'm already using. Integration by this amazing for Visual Studio Code. So
and the other thing you can with cards website and the card database we have online there. So all the samples we have on the you want to open, and you can.
And Outlook that you mentioned, and about actionable messages, which is a kind of a special type of adaptive cards. There is as well a dedicated actionable messages designer that you can use to not only author a card, but as well to send it directly to your inbox and to see how it looks like in your Outlook. So I just put
well, there's also that App Studio thing in Microsoft Teams, which also has a designer.
Yes, it does.
So. And when you're trying to create Power Automate CloudFlows, I will be talking about that later, but that are actually having the adaptive cards designer built in so that you need to cut directly from the inside of the Power Automate designer. So you can really face the adaptive cards designer in multiple different places.
About that, yeah, of course. It's fine. We now know what is an adaptive card, and we know this is a want to level this up because adaptive cards are extensible, and that means, so if you're already familiar to Microsoft Viva, and we for different areas, and one of them is Viva Connections, and we can extend Viva connections with custom components. And custom components would then be adaptive that you could also build a web. That means that you can just like integrate even richer experience in the dashboard. So you can see this right now in this screenshot on the right-hand side. Guys have third-party content in there as well to just like more extensive, rich, engaged with your users. And that is, of course, a great thing because it brings together all the goodness that we already have in Microsoft 365 with a very, very nice experience from the adaptive cards. And this brings the best together. So I'm super excited about this. Plug in here, so we have a bi-weekly call in samples as well, and call out community for delivering so much great work.
For connections.
Yeah, that is correct.
Cool. I for whatever reason I can't see the chat myself. I don't get any updates in chat at all, so you guys have to sort of look at that.
Nothing is happening in chat window. So maybe people, when you're working with active cards, what is maybe dislike about that technology? What makes you angry or annoyed? You can again try to unmute yourself or write down in chat window. Really count on the interaction with you.
I wouldn't say what makes you angry, but what is kind of frustrating? What does not work? Where are you saying, I want this so badly to work, but so what is it? Some kind of authoring experience? Would you like to expose adaptive cards in a different way or in another way or somewhere else? So what are you missing? What is not good? I want to know. Any volunteers? Oh my God, this is just like in third grade, right? When everyone's just like looking down, just like, I forgot to do my homework. I hope the teacher does not call out my name. This is somehow cute, but
it stays pretty quiet. Just as an update to you, there's no general issue with the chat, so it's just quiet.
Okay, so we have a question. Question by Sven, and Sven asks, can't find out how to disable controls depending on user input. Matt, do you know what he means, or would you like him to clarify?
That should be possible depending on which, it depends. Just maybe start a little bit of conversation. So we have a bunch of different flavors of adaptive cards out there. The Viva Aces, we mentioned actual messages. So we are slowly that problem to sort of have a unified way of writing the logic for these cards. And so we've got some work to do in that vein. As far as like disabling controls on user input, you can't really do it as the user is typing. But when you click a button and sort of submit the card, usually in one of our like server side worlds, like so actionable messages or whatever, you can refresh the card. If you want to disable a control, there's a handful of things you can do. You can hide completely and just make it like a read-only version. So if it was an input text box, you can change it to a text block just to sort of show the confirmation. It won't really look like the visible disabled way. That's not currently supported, but you can kind of work around it in an aesthetic way. It is something that we've covered. We do have certain things in the backlog that would enhance this soon. I can't remember, but Teams, it's either rolled out now or soon, where in actions themselves can be disabled. And that's, again, just like a visible like hint to the user. If I press, you know, expense report and it's working in the background, you can sort of disable that button, and that there's a property called is enabled. You can set that to false, and it's just a hint to be like, oh yeah, I did click that, and that's one way on actions, and then we'll bring that to further places later on.
But as far as I understood that and processing those, it's not possible with just a card alone.
Right. Yeah. Backend, or like, you know, in ACEs in the JavaScript code, like, you know, it's some code-based logic, has to tweak it. That's right. In Power Automate, you can definitely achieve the same thing as, you know, as the flow will just have to send an updated card. You're basically replacing the card with something new.
Thank you.
So next question that I can see is, so far all okay. However, oh wait, now the chat just like moved away from me. However, I seen some UI issues with rendering of adaptive cards in Viva Connections Teams mobile app. Question by Anoop.
I can try to take that. I mean, it really depends what kind of UI rendering issues you have. There have been differences in past, like with rendering of cards in Android and compared to the web. So there have been differences. I wouldn't call them issues because it's just, well, it wasn't exactly the same. So I would probably need to know a bit more about what you are referring to.
I can't remember in Viva in particular where we are filing bugs, because it sounds like, I mean, there are definitely going to be bugs. The tricks with adaptive cards are, like Luis mentioned in the first slide, they do render into like native UI. So if you're on an iPhone, you're seeing what the iPhone platform offers. And then there's a layer of styling and theming that goes on top of that. We want them to look like Viva. We want them to look like Teams. So there's a bunch of hooks along the way before the JSON that you write ultimately gets presented to a user. And a lot of platform hooks, a lot of customizations that different developers do. So I'm not surprised if there are some gaps. I'm just trying to think of where we can file bugs specifically for Viva. I guess one way I can certainly at least point you to the adaptive cards GitHub, where and I type /issues there at the end. But so certainly for adaptive cards, you should be able to just file an issue there. Ideally with like a screenshot of what you were expecting or some kind of thing that would help the team debug it or triage it. Yeah, but and then we'd have to route it to the Viva team if it's a Viva specific thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because like adaptive cards as such is so complex. There's the technology itself, so the adaptive card, then there's the host actually rendering a card, and there's some backend interacting with the card, and there's so many pieces involved that it's sometimes hard to figure out where the what's actually causing the bug. Is it the SDKs itself? Is it the host doing something wrong or unexpected or whatever? So it's interesting that there's so many pieces coming together that it's hard to figure out sometimes where actually problems are caused.
So what else in the chat? A suggestion by John Young, more useful templates and info on how others are using adaptive cards easily in a productive way. I haven't seen the GitHub link on screen yet, but I will go take a look, as maybe this will help. So I already posted the links. But of course, this is very great feedback, because it still means people need guidance and samples and just like something to look at and get inspiration to then fully adapt, I think.
Right. And there was a quite interesting question from Anya, or Anya, sorry. Speaking about how to display lists of tasks assigned to user in Teams. And there was like one thread was about the automatic refresh of the card so that it really reacts on the list of users' tasks dynamically. And on the other hand, this could be like a static one. So now, team, please correct me if I'm wrong, but to have this card a dynamic one, that it really reacts on the list of the user's tasks, for example, from Planner, and it displays just that list. And once the task is completed, it then refreshes and shows only those which are still pending. Then we need a custom bot, right, to handle this kind of
That's
refresh.
true, yeah.
Yeah.
With all the things that, let's call it, just go into Teams and user does something and then it goes out, that's something you can do with like Power Automate and other things.
Indeed.
So if you have the natural just user flow, let's call it like that, some conversational experience. If you want to do more dynamic things, update a card, like something that Matt mentioned, like if you click on a button, the card is updated in the background, and so it totally dynamic things. Then I think I have a slide somewhere for that. Then you actually need to build a bot yourself. That can only be done using the bot framework. So you need to build a bot of some sort. That can be done using either .NET or Node.js. But you have to build a bot and host it yourself to do that.
And that gets all back to the I think it actually gets back to the question that Luis was reading above too, like, you know, just getting started in a productive way, from I think John Yang's comment earlier. It's definitely there's a learning curve. You know, you can basically go to the adaptive card designer, you can sort of build a card, and we've done plenty of user studies. I wouldn't need to do a user study. I could see any of you do it. You go to adaptive cards designer, you build a card, and then you kind of hit this moment, well, like, now what do I do with it? And we've got a major cliff there, that we are working on chipping away, because it's like, you know, I want to send it to teams, I want to be productive now with it. And the thing that Tim's showing here is, you know, building a bot. Depending on what that means to you, it either sounds really intimidating and like, what does that even mean? Or, you know, so there's again these couple of like psychological barriers to be like, oh, I don't know if this is, you know, worth digging into. So there is a pretty big jump. And the bot is really, again, it's the logic. It's what's driving the card. When you click on that button, some code has to process it, and that's a back end thing. And so standing up a service that may not be in the skill set of many people. And that's where the Power Platform integration has just started. We've just sort of teased it away with Power Automate. That is getting easier. And we're trying to make that gap more approachable, but it is a pretty big jump right now going from building the UI to actually making it do something.
Right. So I just wanted to drop a few information here because what Matt said and what Tim as well mentioned about the bots, basically for just a small word of explanation. So behind the cards that we are sending from Power Automate to Microsoft Teams, there is as well a bot, but that's a bot built by Microsoft. It's called the Flow bot. And that machine, that backend is actually being used to first receive the request from Power Automate, then to post an adaptive card to Teams to display it, and then to wait for the response. And once the response is sent, it is again not being sent from the adaptive card to Power Automate directly. It is first sent to a bot, and then bot forwards it to the webhook that the Power Automate is waiting for or is listening on. So in the end, whenever we're talking about those custom behaviors like having a card that is able to send multiple responses or having a card that refreshes itself over and over again, showing the latest data, all these operations can be handled by the bot. However, that Flow bot that we have out of box is not capable of doing so. And for that purposes, you need to create your own custom bot. You just need to write its logic so that it knows how to handle and react to these custom scenarios.
And the main issue sort of is to write a bot, you actually need to write code. So you need to work on code. You need to figure out how to deploy your bot, where to host it. It's actually
I would
like
love
coding.
to see a wrapper for that, just like making this easier to a broader audience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because everyone on Teams development needs to do that. So it's not an individual problem of that particular app that a developer wants to write. It is overall, and that means that this should be addressed on another level, at least in my opinion. But so I would love to see this. And I can also see some more questions in the chat. I use cards to post news from SharePoint sites to Teams channels and send recognition cards to team channels from Power Apps. I would love to collect multiple user inputs polls, but I haven't figured out a way to do that. And also I would like to, for images stored in SharePoint to come through to cards, because that is of course an issue, because we're not sending these as the signed user, but as the Flowbot, so that we do not have usually permission on those images stored in SharePoint.
And then if when sending the image through the data URI, we have just those 28 kilobytes of the limit on the payload, on the message payload.
Which is small.
Which is small, yes. It is like a small avatar, like 25 on 25 pixels.
Yeah.
Matt, we are looking at you. This is really small.
But anyway,
I wouldn't say size matters,
but Anand, so if you do have an access, for example, to an Azure subscription, then you can create just an Azure file storage or a blob storage, and then to host those images right there, having them accessible through a link with a token, or even to have them accessibly public. I mean, to have them accessed publicly, and so that you can provide hyperlinks to these assets in the Azure file storage, and they will work. Because as said, you can convert an image from SharePoint into data URI so that it is embedded as a base64 string. However, then you will most probably face that 28 or 28 kilobytes
25,
of a payload,
30, or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, less than 30 kilobytes of the payload message limit, so that the card will not be really rendered, because the whole message is going to be too large for Teams to handle.
And even if you manage to get an image in, the quality would probably not be great.
Yeah, right. But then just remember that this payload counts not only for the image that you're attaching, but as for the whole JSON code that the adaptive card is built from. All right. So
I think we have like 7 minutes left, roughly.
do we have any more questions that we can raise here? And then
there was the one from Anand posting the SharePoint site and wanting to collect multiple user inputs. I don't think we got to that one, have we?
Well, I just wrote an answer on the chat, but you can really just take it and answer here.
Well, I was curious because like the specific part about collecting multiple user inputs, we do have an input called input.choiceSet, which is a sort of long name for it's a set of choices, and you can turn on multi-select on that, and that'll basically render as checkboxes, so you can check multiple things. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're going for. It does get a little tricky because I think you mentioned it was for like a poll-like scenario. So I could imagine you have a checkbox with a text box perhaps associated to it. You can build that, but it's a little bit, you have to sort of, the IDs are what helps build up the values that get sent back to you. So it is buildable. I don't think it would look as good or natural as you would probably expect in a poll. Like I'm totally just envisioning this in my head. I could be off, so feel free to correct. But I'm picturing, you check a box, and then that enables a text box next to it, maybe for like filling in a custom answer in a poll. And you can't do that level of interactivity. Like I check this box, it makes this input. So if you're looking for something like that, you can't quite do that yet. That is certainly something we would be part of adaptive cards later. But you can create a more rudimentary version of that using the choice set and text boxes. You'll just have to build it up a little bit manually.
But then on the other hand, Anand, when speaking about polls and adaptive cards, and if you'd like to, for example, send adaptive card from Power Automate and then wait for the response, then unfortunately this action only waits for the first response. So you can't actually collect multiple responses from the one adaptive cards. Again, using out-of-box features, but you can create your own bot and then do that. The other, like a workaround could be that you're just sending another adaptive card once the first one is completed, and you're doing that over and over again for I don't know how many times, but.
And then there is some overachiever who always clicks first.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, there are things you cannot do with like Power Automate and all these. If you, well, I'm the developer. I sort of like doing these things, but you have to think about it similar. See, first of all, I didn't get any chat messages, and now I get all of them. Yeah, nice. As soon as you write your own bot, you pretty much have all freedom to do things, because then it's just an app. So, and it's just .NET code or Node.js code, and you can do pretty much whatever you want with it. So you can do a lot more than what is possible using Power Automate, but you have to code it yourself. So the moment you say, hey, I'm actually fine with coding things myself, then yes, you can do a lot more things. But you have to do things yourself then. Yeah.
Yeah, so I might disagree here. So of course, I have opinions, because just because I could do this doesn't mean that I want to do this, because at the end of the day, I'm busy, and I do not want to code the same thing that others developed before over and over and over again, because they all need to solve the same puzzle. And this is why I think that should be handled differently, to just like increase developer velocity and to increase my productivity as well, because adaptive cards are already so great to increase that. But as soon as I want to do something that's just like more fancy, then I of course face some challenges, and I'm happy to take these, and I'm happy to do something more, or to just like advance my skills and so on, or even have someone on the team who does this. But if just like a certain group of people needs to do over and over the same type of things, that is not very helpful. So I would love to see some improvements over there.
We have like 4 minutes left, I think. I actually really like the question from Anya to end this, because that's pretty neat question, because Anya was asking, what is your, as in was it our favorite use for adaptive cards? And I think that's a great question to answer. I don't know, Luis, do you want to go ahead?
So for me, any kind of automated message should be an adaptive card. They just like look nicer, and so automated messages tend to be overlooked because they don't feel that personal. But yes, I can include a nice image, and we know people click on images, so it's just like it looks better, and people will click what looks beautiful, and we know this, and so that I can. It's true.
It's like in real world. Hey, that looks nice. Can I touch this?
I liked it, so it's mine. So I think so automated messages should be adaptive cards, and then just like easier. So I do this all the time. I never send an automated message just like as is, because people can't really engage with these, and therefore I would just like put it more generic. What about you?
So I would say that any card, because as you already acknowledged, I'm just focusing mostly on integration with Power Automate, Teams, and Outlook eventually. So I'm just mostly using those cards for interaction with users, mostly with assignees to tasks. So with cards, I'm trying to simply get feedback or collect their responses, and that's sort of those purposes I'm using cards for. Well, team.
Yeah, I'm. Well, if it comes to what my favorite use for adaptive card is, then it's probably a little bit out of the box here, because I do things differently. I'm a developer. I actually use cards to like build my own small UI widgets in apps I'm working with. So I actually use the card technology as such, because it's just JSON rendering as UI pieces, and you can use that everywhere, like in your own apps. Like if you look at my Made with Cards page, that's all adaptive cards using there. So the blog post and everything you see, that's all based on adaptive cards. And so that's my favorite use of the technology as such. I hope that answered your question, Anya. I mean, Matt, do you want to add your own? Do you have any?
I wouldn't say I've ever figured out a favorite. I get really attached to the potential which is just so unrealized as of yet. You know, Luis calls out one particular thing, which is a really real thing. Like we've got cliffs that are just preventing people from achieving this stuff. But we were bantering sort of before this call started about Tamash's manual room with manual light switches. And I've gone through and automated my whole house. And I always just like, when those devices fail, I wish they would just send me an adaptive card. Like I think of like stuff like that. It's like such an untapped, I think, technology that we haven't gotten to where it needs to be yet.
Yeah.
All right, so we have.
See, Luis has some nice comment for you, and I think that's pretty great. Anya was saying Luis's blog is the reason I started with adaptive cards, and that's nice to hear, I guess.
No.
All three of your blogs were fantastic. Tamash wrote like a really long one back in the day about an intro to adaptive cards, which was sorely lacking. And that was right around when I met Luis. And Luis and I met in person at a conference. And then Tim started covering the pro angle of things. And the three of you have just been nailing the community stuff. So it's very much appreciated. I'm glad that some people are finding it.
Very welcome. So
thank you. So no, happy to inspire and happy to help. And please, everyone, so if you feel there is some content missing or no one explains how to do XYZ, whatever this XYZ is, so it could be that this is an advanced scenario, could be that this is a basic scenario and no one thinks about that, please do reach out and make sure that people in this room know that this is not addressed yet, or perhaps we can point you to resources, or we can create resources to get you started or to get you progress even further on your journey with adaptive cards.
Yeah. If you have any question, just reach out, and if we don't know the answer, we might know someone who knows or can connect you to like people like Matt or someone from Matt's team or whatever. So there are ways to get you the answers you need. So just reach out whenever. Yeah, thank you all for joining the session.
Thanks, everyone. This was really great. Thank you for participating in the discussion.
Thanks, Matt, for getting up in the middle of the night.
Sure, absolutely. Glad to have been able to participate. Thanks, y'all.
Yes.
Have a great rest of the conference.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye. All right.
Yep.
Just looking at the last question that John.
Could you link important emails you send out to trigger an adaptive card to all recipients in Teams, such as an outage report?
Right. So my bad. I didn't read the Teams. I thought it was through email. So Jon or John, sorry for maybe misspelling your name. But the goal is that, yes, indeed, you can use that because apart from having the Power Automate action that allows you to send an adaptive card and waits for the response, you have as well an option to simply send adaptive card without waiting for the response. And then that adaptive card can be sent to a channel or to a specific chat. And it will be simply displayed as that kind of an announcement or just information, whatever purpose you have with your branding. So yes, the answer is yes.
I've actually seen a lot of people do that, like have some custom trigger on some alerting monitoring system, whatever, going to Power Automate and then send out an email.
Yeah.
Or message to Teams as well.
Yeah.
I'm, for example, using Trigger. Well, it is a different purpose, but kind of a similar idea. So I have a trigger on Microsoft Teams, which is looking for some specific keywords not in Teams, in Twitter. That is for tweets that are having some specific keywords. And then once that keyword is found and the flow is triggered, then an adaptive card with the tweet message, with the tweet content is being sent to my chat. So it works.
I have the same thing, and I use it for out-of-office purposes because in my out-of-office notice, I say, hey, I will be totally disconnecting, but dear customer, if you really need my help, you need to tweet something with hashtag Louisa, I need your help, and I will be monitoring that, and this just like triggers this flow, and I blogged about it.
That's interesting. I might abuse that at some point.
Yeah, it's just like, so they don't, because it means, yes, so email is private, so they need to expose them So somehow to say, yeah, Louisa, I am just like
Tim, are you
disturbing
doing
you
that?
on your vacation. It happens one time. Because my
that?
customers know that if I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation, and we don't have just like some kind of emergency or alert system or somewhat, because I don't work on any servers or something. So if something's off, blame Azure, don't blame me. So it's I can't fix
Okay.
that.
I'm waiting for a dingle that new tweet arrived and new adaptive guide is sent to you. So what was that? Louise, I need your help.
Louisa, I need your help. It's only activated when I'm on vacation, right?
Ah,
So you know
I
this.
thought there's some alert going off in the background, like you have some alert light
Yeah,
or something.
I need a light bar that is just like, woo, woo, woo.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's only activated when I'm on vacation because yeah, reasons.
So it happens rarely, like with all of us.
Oh, well, I will just like put it on during MVP Summit, and so that I have just like time to watch my sessions. Okay, so that was great. Thank you.
Yes.
I think there was some valuable feedback as well, and after some kind of period of hesitance, they woke up and wanted to engage. So that was good. I liked it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you once again, and
thanks, Thomas, for
Thank you for
managing
the
all that.
session. So good.